What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back into another episode of Boys Talking Ball. It's Trade Deadline Tuesday, and we're the boys. I'm Mitchell, and that's Bryce. Bryce, how you feeling today?
I'm mad, bro. Monday night sucked, and I just want to start this pod off by saying that the Chiefs are the best, worst team in the NFL. They suck. Their team is trash. Their defense is garbage. I don't know what's going on. I'm a salty fan this morning. I don't know about you.
I get it. No, it's a rough Tuesday for you, and I understand that. I understand why. For me, I'm in all black today for a reason. It's a funeral for me. I am putting this Browns season and any hope that came with it to bed. And I have zero expectations for our team for the rest of the 2024 NFL season. But, our teams it's crazy. Our teams are in kind of not similar situations, but we are both underperforming. Well, hey, you make that face, but let me tell you, our teams are only 2 games difference, bro. Think about that. Okay. You only have 2 more wins than us.
You had a quadratic formula last week that if they win one game and the Chargers stadium explodes and that the full moon rises, that the Browns maybe get a wild card playoff. At least we're only 2 games from being the sole leaders in our division.
Yeah, so. I get it. No, trust me, I understand there's a lot more hope for Bucs fans than there is Browns fans. I get it. I'm just saying. I found that very interesting when I looked at the records this morning. I was like, dang, the Bucs are 4-5. It's just crazy.
I'm pissed.
Well, hey, a family-friendly show, brother. You're upset, okay? No, let's recap it. So let's talk about the Bucs first. You've obviously got tons of emotions. Let's break it down kind of piece by piece. What are you feeling about the result from last night? What were your thoughts on the game? What are your thoughts moving forward? Let's talk about it.
I mean, yeah, here's the deal. Here's been the trend for the last 9 weeks. Our offense is playing great despite the absolute devastation of our roster. I mean, so many guys injured, including 2 of our best players, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Yet somehow Baker Mayfield finds a way to score, finds a way. And I don't want to discredit, in my opinion, one of the greatest tight ends in the league, which is Cade Otton. Like, I'm not even trying to be biased. I think he's top 10 tight end in the league.
Let me mark that clip because people need to hear that take.
Go ahead. Gosh. I think Cade Otton is an exceptional tight end. I think he's top 10 in the league. And I think that he's starting, now that Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are out, people are actually now seeing the value in this tight end, and the hits he could take, the catches that he makes is just incredible. But the problem is not in our offense at all. I think on my story, if you guys go over to my Instagram, I posted a picture of the Tampa Bay defensive backfield, and it was a Waffle House restaurant in the middle of the field, open 24/7. Any third down that happens with this team, Mitch, the middle of the field it feels like Golden Corral. Anybody can come in there, man. Like, it is Travis Kelce. It doesn't matter who's out there. It could be me. I could be playing for the Chiefs and I would have a wide open first down. It baffles me. And so our defense, like, it comes down to a point. A lot of the fans right now are questioning Todd Bowles. Is our defensive-minded coach failing us? Because Liam Cohen, who is our new offensive coordinator, stepped in this season. A lot of fans are like, hey, promote this guy. We want to see him be the head coach. Like, we like how he's running this offense. We absolutely 1,000,000% when this season is over, need to sign him to a multi-year contract, give him a promotion if he needs it, because he's done just an exceptional job. The greatest ever in Bucs history, by the way. Like, if you go and look at his offensive numbers, he's broken records in just a short time he's been here in Tampa. Yeah. The one game where we had over 500 yards of offense and had multiple touchdowns, 200 yards rushing, 300 yards passing. That's never been done in Bucs history. And it's credit to his play calling. And he's doing great. Like I said, I think I said it on the pod last week. If I didn't, I don't know what it's like after this game. But coming into the Chiefs game, the Bucs were averaging 29 points per game and still losing, which is ridiculous. You shouldn't be averaging that high of a number of points per game and still losing games. So our defense has really been missing tackles. We've been missing assignments, and we can't cover the middle of the field, and we can't get off the field on third down. I think the Chiefs had over 10 third down conversions last night, and it's depressing. I'm upset. I also hate playing the Chiefs. I think, not to be a conspiracy theorist, but I think they get away with a lot of no calls. There was a call last night where They got Tristan Wirfs for a face mask. They went and reviewed it, like showed the replay to everybody. And this man touched no one. Casper the Friendly Ghost is whose face mask was hit yesterday because it wasn't anybody on the Chiefs team, yet they still called it. And it backed us up, took us out of field goal range. Like it was just a miserable game to watch.
What point in the game was that? Remind me. What point in the game
was that? That was fourth quarter. Can't remember exactly when. And
did Bucky score on that play?
No, Bucky didn't score.
Okay, I saw the replay, and I'll be honest, like just watching it for the first time, it does, the way his head jerks, it does look like the face mask was grabbed. Obviously, if you go back and look at it closely, it wasn't. But as a ref, like you see that movement, you're going to assume, I understand how you feel. I'm just saying from a unbiased fan perspective, it did look like a face mask.
Here's what's crazy to me. Every score is reviewed in the NFL, right?
Yeah, correct.
When he tossed that ball, his foot was over the line of scrimmage. When he tossed that ball over to Samaje, and it's reviewable. Like you go back and they didn't spend any time reviewing it. They were just worrying about the injury. You hear on the intercom in the stadium, play stands, touchdown. So apparently there was some form of, hey, we're going to review it.
Yeah.
But they did not show that on television. And I know being in game, being on the television are two different things. But what frustrated me was literally like, can we take a deeper look at that one? Because I actually think that was an illegal forward pass. Had that been an illegal forward pass, I was third down, would have put him in fourth. Harrison Butker kick, and this game's looking a little bit different. Again, hindsight's 2020. As I'm explaining this and talking it out with you, I'm getting less and less mad. As you can tell, I'm kind of chilling down.
It's therapy session, man.
Genuinely, last night I was heated on every single post. You can find me. I'm on NFL, Buccaneers, all our meme pages. I'm in the comments roasting the crap out of Juwan Taylor, out of these holding calls. Dude, there is a point, and if I can find it, I might put it on our Instagram, where there was like 3 separate holds going on Bucs players at a time. One where our guy is on the ground, and it looks like their offensive lineman is choking one of our DNs. No flags, nothing called. Great pass play, like whatever. I don't know, man. It is what it is. I didn't expect us to come in, and as you, like when we get to your picks, you had the Chiefs winning. I thought for sure we would give them a fight, and we did. And my last thing I'll say about this game is I think the overtime rules for the playoffs need to carry over to the regular season. I can argue that a regular season game isn't as important as the playoffs. Obviously, you lose, you're out, but it's very important. These big games, Tampa needed that game. Our offense didn't get to see the field in overtime. And that sucks. You could see Baker's reaction when Patrick Mahomes won the coin toss. He just threw his head up in the air. He's like, well, that's it. And is that a lack of faith in his defense? Maybe, but also it's just like the offense that the Chiefs have is really good. And so obviously he's just scared that that's the last time he's going to see the field. And of course that was, and that's the second time this season this has happened to us. It's one thing if that happens once in a season. I think every fan kind of goes through that during the season if their games go into overtime. Twice, it's heartbreaking. So my final thoughts on this game are I'm extremely disappointed in our defense. I'm proud of our offense. Baker had a 112.3 QBR, 2 touchdowns, 200 yards even passing. He played a great game, did the best he could. Running game could have been better, and it is what it is. On to the 49ers. CMC is going to put 200 yards on us. So.
Well, it's not your run defense that struggles, it's your pass defense, right?
That's true.
Here's my thoughts on the game quickly. I did pick the Chiefs, but I honestly didn't expect it to be as close as it was. The only reason I picked KC is because 2 factors, really. 1, they're at home at Arrowhead, and 2, your offense was just so decimated with injuries. So I assumed that would have a part to play, that Baker wouldn't be as productive. He wasn't crazy productive. He had a nice game, I think, offensively, but he did everything that he needed to do to keep that team in the game. And ultimately you had a chance to win at the end, and that's all you can ask for. And so while he didn't have his weapons, he still produced. And, it's unfortunate. I mean, once it gets to overtime, you're right. I mean, anything can happen if the actual cost of toss of the coin, can determine the outcome, which is unfortunate. And, there's always one fan base that's left upset and one that's, everything's fair and we're moving on, and it is what it is. What can you do? What are your thoughts really quick on the future of the Bucs, particularly for this season? I know you spoke a little bit about the coaching, but what about from just a team aspect, playoff chances, those kinds of things?
We've always been a next man up mentality kind of team, and I know a lot of teams are, but I think we actually proved that with Sterling Shepard and Trey Palmer and Jalen McMillan out last night and still being able to generate receiving yards. I think that's huge. I think next week we won't have Mike, but I believe we have a bye week, week 11. He should be back after the bye week.
Okay,
So
that's
just
what I was
one
gonna
more
ask.
week without Mike, and Mike should be back. When Mike's back in there, it's a different game. The defense has to strategize for a player of his caliber. And so I could see us maybe squeezing out a win against the 49ers. We have to remind ourselves the 49ers aren't doing too hot either. They're
Right.
4-4. You know, they're in the same boat as we are, and Brock Purdy hasn't looked insane this season. I know they're without CMC, but I don't expect them to just unload CMC first week back. You know, I would assume they give him a little bit, you know, some passes out of the backfield, definitely some things to worry about. Luckily, we've played someone of that caliber already this season in Alvin Kamara, and we handled him pretty well. And so be interested to see how that offense plays. I'm not worried about our offense. Again, that is the theme. So, yes, the 49ers defense is good, but so are we. And we got 3 insanely capable running backs in Rachaad White, Sean Tucker, and Bucky. All 3 of them exceptional, and we feed the hot hand. So whoever's doing good will get the start. Will continue to get the start. So I see us winning quite a few games. I would be really surprised by the end of the season, and you can quote me on this, if we do not have at least a wild card spot. Because Baker's playing great, dude. And our defense just needs to lock in. And if the trade deadline today hits and we haven't picked up a cornerback or anything, I'd be really surprised. But I think we win enough games to get at least a wild card spot.
Love it. Love it. One final note on the Buccaneers. I just read this from Dov Kleeman on Twitter, and that is the strength of schedules for every NFL team for the remainder of the season. My Cleveland Browns, second most difficult remaining schedule. Your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the least difficult remaining schedule of all teams in the NFL.
Yeah, we play some terrible teams.
If that says anything, there's hope for your future. Let's move on to Cleveland quickly. I don't even want to spend a lot of time on this. Is that crazy? I'm a Browns fan with all my heart, and I just don't even want to talk about them that much, and it's sad. But we're going to do it because that's a big part of this podcast is what we do. We talk about our teams. So the Cleveland Browns have a game against the Los Angeles Chargers where if they win, you've kind of got some renewed hope for the season. You're in a spot where you put a string of wins together, and who knows what could happen, right? You got a quarterback playing well. You know, you've got a team that's rejuvenated and feels like there's hope. And then Sunday happens, and it looked like the same team as it looked the first 8 weeks of the season, if I'm being honest. Very poor quarterback play. I'm not trying to hate on Jameis, but man, I think we both assumed that he would show up better than he did on Sunday. The team was terrible on third downs, reverting back to what it's been all season long. We cannot pick up third downs. The pass offense looked non-existent. The defense, man, the defense was lost at times. The defense gave up, I want to say, 3 major coverage breakdowns that led to touchdowns, or two of which led to touchdowns, I should say. Long touchdown passes. And man, watching that, it's so frustrating because I did feel like the defense, for the most part, played pretty decent. Again, I'm not high on the Chargers. My take last week was the Chargers are meh, and I still feel that way about them, honestly. But what does that say about our team? We just didn't show up, man. We didn't show up in a game where we needed it. I think the one player that had a decent outing was Myles Garrett, 3 sacks. I want to say he had all those in the first half. The dude was on fire.
Yeah, first half.
And man, I told my wife today, like, if we had 22 Myles Garretts, we'd be in good shape. But we don't, man. We don't. There's just, I don't know what it is about some of our guys that were so good last year. Talking about, especially on the defensive end, you want to talk about like Martin Emerson Jr. on the outside, Greg Newsome. Greg Newsome's been fine, but Denzel Ward's had moments. I mean, he took the blame for the coverage breakdowns yesterday. I think it was more on Juan Thornhill on the back end, but those are guys that like you rely on, that you spend a lot of money on, and that are big parts of your team. And, you know, to see the performance and the production and the output that they're giving you week after week, it's just sad. I'm not saying the effort's not there. I think the effort is there, It's just not good, man. And I don't know what
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is. I don't know why. I think the Browns are kind of scrambling to figure it out. We've tried everything. Kevin Stefanski gave up play calling to Ken Dorsey. Looked great against Baltimore. Looked pretty bad yesterday against Chargers. What's crazy is like the Chargers are not as good as the Ravens. I think everybody would agree about on that. And it was the same stadium, our same team, and it just looked totally different. That's why
Yeah.
I love and hate the NFL, man. It's a week to week league. One week we look great and have a lot of hope, and the next week,
Right.
I'm wearing black because it's a funeral.
Well, I want to
Um,
run some things by you from this game and from the
sure.
Ravens game that I think are some interesting statistics. First
Hit
and
me with it.
foremost, let's just do the Chargers game first. Jameis Winston and Justin Herbert both were sacked 6 times total. And you could argue, man, like, is the pressure something that maybe getting to Jameis may have made him make those mistakes? He threw 3 interceptions, had a 50 QBR, like, didn't look good at all. So I'm interested to know, because last week we talked about the most important position in football is the quarterback.
Yeah.
And it's what you do when you are under this immense pressure. You guys were able to get to Justin Herbert, yet he was not making the same mistakes that Jameis was. He had 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions, 1 fumble.
Yep.
I want to know, what are your thoughts like on your O-line? You saw the game, you were watching, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. Truthfully, like I don't know what's going on, man. It's the same offensive line from last season when they were so incredibly good. And I'm talking run blocking and pass blocking. Like this team was, especially up front, it was winning in the trenches, both offensively and defensively. We could count on the line of scrimmage being Cleveland's for the game.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that this year, but it's the same personnel, which is upsetting. Now, we did go a majority of the beginning of the season without our regular tackle play, but now you've got Jack Conklin back, and on the left side, they've inserted DeJuan Jones instead of Jedrick Wills, which I've been calling for over a year now, and I know a lot of Browns fans that would agree with that take. Jed Wills is not your guy at left tackle, and I think DeJuan Jones can be.
Yeah.
But even with Jones and Conklin on the outside, you have the same 3 interior guys in Posick, Teller, and Batonio. A lot of guys that have made Pro Bowls in recent seasons. It just hasn't looked good. The protection is not good. The run blocking is not good. We're not seeing the same Nick Chubb as we saw pre-injury. Obviously, it's going to take some time, but you do wonder how much time it's going to take, and how much longer do we need to wait for that to look normal again. So it's hard to tell. I haven't watched the tape back yet. It's hard to tell if it's more of a Nick Chubb thing, he's not seeing the field like he normally has, or if it's an offensive line thing. We're not opening up holes. He's running into a stacked line. It's tough, man. And really what's upsetting about it is that the Chargers were not loading the box. They were really sitting 2 safeties back deep for most of the game, and they didn't have to worry about the run. And because of that, we couldn't pass. Our play action passing was almost non-existent. I would question Ken Dorsey on that, because not only was our play action passing not effective when we used it, but we barely used it at all. And play action passing has been a big part of this offense in the past couple seasons, especially with Kevin Stefanski at the helm. So I don't know. Interested to see where that goes. Those are my takes on the game. I mean, as far as Jameis Winston is concerned, like he was never a guy that I thought was going to be the answer long-term for Cleveland. I thought, hey, maybe we could make something of this season with him under center. And now, maybe we can, maybe we can't. I'm really thinking more about the future when I look ahead for this team. Who is going to be that answer at quarterback? It's not going to be Jameis Winston. I'm not saying that his career is over. He's a formidable backup. He's a good locker room guy. He's a Christ believer, which, hey, I love him for that. But he's not going to be your guy that's going to take the Cleveland Browns to the Super Bowl. I just don't think that's the case. And because that's not the case, now we have to look at the future. We have to consider who is that guy, because you have a lot of talent on this team. But if you don't have the quarterback position taken care of, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And so what I don't want to have happen is the Browns waste Myles Garrett's prime years here, waste David Njoku's prime years, waste Nick Chubb's prime years here, Denzel Ward, guys that are assets and staple pieces of this team. They're going to get old eventually, right? And you can't continue to pay all these guys a ton of money. What I don't want to have happen is those years pass us by because we couldn't figure out the quarterback position. I think everybody has pushed in their cards and folded on Deshaun Watson. To see the Browns roll him out again next year would be upsetting. And I really hope that they come to their senses as far as, hey, it's time to move on. It's time to cut bait. This didn't work. I'm not even hating on them for making the original move. Not mad about it. I think they did what they had to do to try to improve this team, and they thought they were getting a guy that could take them to the next level. And I believed that just like they did. And it is what it is. Yeah, it sucks because you spent a lot of money on him. You spent a lot of assets on him. You're never going to get that stuff back. And obviously he didn't produce like we hoped he would. But what's next for the Cleveland Browns at the quarterback position? And a little bit later on, we'll talk about some of our overreactions and maybe our predictions. Like, I'm at the point now where, and I can't believe I'm even saying this because I want to enjoy watching the Browns this year. There's a lot of season left, but I want a good quarterback. So how do we get that? Do we trade for Anthony Richardson or a Bryce Young? I wouldn't be excited about Bryce Young. Anthony Richardson, there's some upside there. Or are we going to look for the draft and are we going to say, hey, top 5 pick, and we're going to get one of these quality guys, a Cam Ward, a Shador Sanders, Carson Beck? Are there any that I'm missing that are up there as far as draft quarterbacks this year? I'm sure there are. I haven't even looked at it yet, but those are just some names off the top of my head that I can think of. But I'm thinking, man, that's got to be the next step. Plug in a young guy and see if this can work because we're running out of time in Cleveland.
I think if the Browns defense and the Bucs offense combined, it'd be the greatest team in the league. Unfortunately, that's not possible. So
yeah, maybe we can work something out in the offseason. I don't know. All right, let's move on. I'm done talking about the Browns. You're probably done talking about Bucs. Rough weekend for our teams, man, but we'll move on. We've got a lot of news happening around the league today. As of the time we're recording this pod, it's trade deadline Tuesday. The trade deadline coming up 4 p.m. today. We've already got some moves. Obviously, last week we talked about the trade of Deontay Johnson to the Ravens. There was a couple other moves that were made. We've got some news dropping today as far as some players going some different spots. I didn't bring it up during my rant because I knew we were going to get to it, but another just sad aspect of the Cleveland Browns is that pass rusher Zadarius Smith is headed to Detroit.
Sad.
So the full terms of the deal, Smith and a 7th rounder going to Detroit, and Cleveland receiving a 5th and 6th rounder. It's sad, man.
Dang, for a bag of chips, man.
Well, Andrew Berry has proven that he can do some things with 5th round picks. You know, maybe they're stockpiling some later round picks to trade and kind of move up in the draft.
Good point.
But man, it's just sad. I mean, I'm happy for Zadarius Smith in that he's going to an immediate Super Bowl contender. And I do think he will be a good piece for that defense. Obviously, we won't see it this season, and who knows if he'll be with that team past this season, but a Aiden Hutchinson, Zadarius Smith combo on the outside would be nice for Detroit. I do
long term. Yeah.
Long term. You know, you look at his stats this season, he's got 5 sacks, 14 tackles, 3 quarterback hurries, and 27 pressures overall. Nice when you're talking about a bookend to Myles Garrett. And so I do think he's going to provide a spark for that Lions defense, which is already good. And they are obviously one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFL right now, the way that they're playing. Just from a Cleveland Browns aspect, man, it stinks to lose a player like him, not only that's productive on the field, but he's fun to watch. You know, he's a good locker room guy. He's a quality teammate. A lot of the media interviews that you saw after the game on Sunday, they were asking players about Zadarius Smith, and nobody had anything bad to say about this guy. He's a family man. His kids come to every game. He's a quality guy in the locker room. He's a leader on this team, and they're going to miss him, not just from a production standpoint, but from a leadership standpoint, from a guy in the locker room who's just positive. And so while it stinks for Cleveland and Cleveland fans and my wife, I told my wife that he got traded and she was like, what? No way.
Did she cry?
She didn't cry, which is surprising because she's pregnant. Her emotions are, off the charts these days, but she was upset, man. She was upset. And that goes to show you the kind of player and the kind of man that Zadarius Smith is. So Detroit getting a good one for sure.
We got Khalil Herbert heading to Cincinnati. Not a huge thing, and don't got to spend a whole lot of time on it, but interesting depth for Cincinnati. I don't even think Khalil Herbert's been playing for the Bears, but interesting. I think the Bears, I think it was for like a 7th round pick or something. The Bears didn't need him. And so just to get some picks, I guess it makes sense. And if Khalil Herbert can go to Cincinnati and get at least some playing time, I think that's the point, right? Like, agent's probably trying to push for it. This dude's not even seeing the field. So give him a chance. Let him go out there and see what he can do. I still think Chase Brown is going to be the guy. I think he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to climb that roster, but he might have a better chance over there because the running back room isn't as good as the Bears running back room.
I agree with you. I don't love any of the 3 Bengals running backs when you add Khalil Herbert to that room. I mean, he's a guy that has proven that he can be flashy at times. He's not somebody that's going to be a consistent back. And I don't think that's what they got him for. But, you add him to a running back room which is already kind of average, considering you have an aging Zach Moss, not been very productive this year. I can tell you that firsthand. I have him in fantasy. And then you've got Chase Brown, who, in my opinion, if the Bengals want to get serious about their season moving forward, this guy needs the majority of the carries. He's young. He's proven he can be productive at times. The consistency isn't there yet, but if he gets the bulk of the carries, I could see Chase Brown emerging as a quality number 1 in Cincinnati. So when you look at this trade, it's whatever, honestly. I mean, maybe Khalil Herbert proves to be more of a special teams asset for them as a kick and punt returner. I don't know if that's in their plans. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, and less of a factor in the running game, but I guess only time will tell. Dude, did you see Saquon Barkley's backwards hurdle? What do you even call that? That was incredible.
That was crazy, but it wasn't even the first time he's tried that. Have you seen the attempt he had when he played for the Giants?
No, I didn't see it.
He tried this before and got pummeled for the Giants. And of course, with the Eagles, the swagger turns on and Buddy hits a 360 no-scope hurdle over. And by the way, that photo's going in the Hall of Fame. That photo's going everywhere. What sucks is I don't even know the defender who was going for the tackle, but my brother's got to be hurting this week, just knowing like this is being replayed over and over and over again. And we'll probably post this up on the Instagram page of the hurdle, but it was crazy. It was crazy. It's stupid. It doesn't even make sense to do, but he did it anyways and it worked. And now it's like, it's like when a player goes up for a catch and can totally catch that with 2 hands, but decides to do something flashy. I guess running backs got to figure it out for themselves. And Saquon, I mean, he's just having an incredible year and he's playing great. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen, though.
Dumb, dude. I'm not hating on Saquon, but it's good when it works, right? But how many times has he or other running backs in the league or other players tried these different things on the field and it just fails? You don't normally see that, right? But when it works, the whole world explodes. So I wonder what the ratio is of the success rate for Saquon there and his crazy moves. But regardless, what an athlete to do what he did. And I'm just like, man, like, that's just insane. I don't know what to say, bro. That's insane. It was a crazy move. What about this Michael Thomas beef with Derek Carr? Can you tell me what's going on here?
Yeah, I actually can. First and foremost, somebody tweeted out, it was like a handshake and it was like me, Michael Thomas, big Derek Carr haters. I'm jumping on that train. First of all, I hate the Saints. I think Derek Carr's a good person. I want people to hear our heart. When we have a podcast and we talk trash about players, or you don't really, but I probably will quite a bit. It's never from a place of like, I don't like the person personally. I think Derek Carr is a cool guy. He's a Christian. I think he's a good person, but I hate the Saints. And I think Derek Carr sucks at playing football. So I think Michael Thomas, he put out a bunch of tweets and we are family friendly. So I'm not going to go through them all. But he basically just went off. He minute after minute was posting another thing about Derek Carr, talking about how he's putting his receivers in dangerous spots. And it is sad what happened to Olave. Like his 5th concussion, how many more can these players sustain before it's like, all right, put the guardian cap on, or hey, you should probably hang the cleats up and call it a career. But Michael Thomas just was firing off and calling him a liar, calling him a bunch of names. And I just think it's funny. I think Michael Thomas might have some CTE himself. It's kind of like that AB diva wide receiver treatment. I think Derek Carr handled it really well. All jokes aside, in his press conference, he said, my number hasn't changed. I've tried reaching out to Michael Thomas. He knows he can call me. If he really has these problems, he can talk to me about it. So I appreciated that he stood on business and was like, hit me up then. Like, if you're about it, be about it. And it was kind of like them Twitter fingers that Michael Thomas was pushing on. And at the end of the day, I don't think any player in this league is purposely trying to get other players to die. So, I think Michael Thomas just got CTE or something, man. That dude's freaking stupid. Also hate Michael Thomas.
It shows.
Period. I don't like Michael Thomas at all. And Carlton Davis, back when he plays for Detroit now, when we'd play the Saints, he would lock Michael Thomas down every single time. That dude could not play against us. And since we're talking about Michael Thomas, last thing I'll say, this man stubbed his toe like 3 years ago and has not played since. Ricky Parcell for the 49ers was shot in the chest with a gun and was playing last week.
He's built different.
I'm just saying, bro.
He's built different. Look, I don't want to take sides, but I'm going to, because Michael Thomas is wrong. Michael Thomas is wrong here, man. He sounds like the angry uncle on the front porch that's watching and has a take for everything. He's not playing anymore. Look, I agree with you. From a production standpoint, Derek Carr is not a dude, right? He's just, I don't think
he's not a dude.
He's not a dude. Like, he's not, okay.
Whoa, the first ever in the NFL. No. That's crazy.
No, when I say that, I mean, like, Derek Carr's not that guy. That's what I mean. Like, he's not that guy. Yeah. He's not going to be your franchise guy. I'd be upset if I was a Saints fan right now with the future of that franchise. Love Derek Carr as a person. I'm with you. He's a quality guy off the field. He's always proven that in his interviews and the way that he handles adversity and difficult situations. And I think he proved that in this case. And so I'm with Derek Carr here, man. He did what he could. If we are going to believe what he says, which we have to take him at his word until we know otherwise, he reached out. He tried to hit this man up. He tried to talk it out offline. What does Michael Thomas do? The cardinal sin. He goes straight to social media with his beef. Part of me wonders, man, is this a PR stunt? Is he trying to drum up interest? And is he still trying to play in the league? You know, if he is, this is a way to get your name out there.
Yeah,
don't know that it's a good look on him. It's just unfortunate, man. I agree. I agree with you. You're not trying to throw a guy into danger. You're not trying to like put somebody's life on the line. You can't control the way that a defender moves. I know there's situations where quarterbacks set their guys up to be hit. I just don't think this was one of them. You watch the play, like the cornerback pulled up a little bit. He didn't even like hit him full on. It just was an unfortunate situation. And a guy, Chris Olave, who's had concussion issues in the past, it's unfortunate. And obviously you don't wish any ill will for Olave. You hope that he's healthy and can make a full recovery and return and play at a high level. I just don't think that smearing Derek Carr's name publicly without going to him personally is a good move. Not a good move on Michael Thomas' part.
Agreed.
Let's move on from that. What's next?
We got Cowboys news. First and foremost, Dak.
Do we have to
hit the IR today? Yeah, we do, because it's America's football team, apparently.
Yes, but I don't want to be the pod that talks about the Cowboys no matter how they're doing. So how about this? 60 seconds on this take. 60 seconds.
Dak's injured. Cooper Rush operates that offense far better anyways. Hot take. I'll share that for later. Don't want to overreact. But Jonathan Mingo added, like Jerry Jones this morning was talking about, we're going to add a receiver before the trade deadline. And this is who they get. Okay, cool. It doesn't change anything for me.
Doesn't change anything. Cowboys get Jonathan Mingo. So Jonathan Mingo is a guy coming from Carolina. I think he has upside. He's a young guy. Look, the Cowboys season is over. There's no hope for them either.
Dang.
Dak is about to go on IR. Okay, so he's going to be out at least 4 games, if not more. Are you confident that Cooper Rush can lead this offense into a playoff position? I'm not. Don't have confidence in the coaching staff there. Don't have confidence in the players. The team is just okay. You know, they acquire a receiver in Jonathan Mingo, but who's throwing to him? Like, Dak is not going to be able to operate in this new look offense for at least a month, if not more. Not interested in the Cowboys, man. It is what it is. I hope Dak heals and gets better. I like Dak as a person. I think he's a good player with good pieces around him, can be something. But, man, why do the Cowboys fail? I want to say fail us, but I don't care about how they do. But why do the Cowboys fail America every year? Like, they're just average, man.
Why do you hate the Cowboys so much?
Because everybody else loves them. That's why I hate them.
All right, well, let's move on.
Let's move on.
Well, as we're recording right now, Commanders have emerged as a real contender for Saints superstar cornerback Marshawn Lattimore.
Yeah.
This is via Jay Jones, Jonathan Jones, and Marshawn Lattimore is great cornerback, and if he leaves the Saints, that just makes me happy. Do the Commanders need more talent? Jeez Louise. I mean, if they get Marshawn Lattimore, that's going to be crazy. Again, it's just a rumor. We don't know anything yet. And by the end of today, 4 p.m. By the time this podcast comes out, there's probably going to be quite a bit of things that have happened in the league.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm reading the report that you're referencing, and I see that it says both the Chiefs and Commanders have interest in trading for Lattimore. Obviously, two teams that could use him. The Commanders need a little bit of help on that back end. There's not really a staple guy there in their defensive backfield, so they could really use a guy like him. And then the Chiefs, obviously, anybody they get, they're just adding to what's already a very excellent operation over there. So that's an interesting piece of news. Again, 3.5 hours left in the deadline, and we'll just have to see how it plays out.
All right, so this is going to be one of my favorite segments that we'll be doing every week, and it's the first week we get to do it on this pod. We're calling it Run That Back, where we're going to be going over the picks from last week just a little bit. We're not going to spend 400 years on this, but we're going to talk a little bit about some of the egregious takes that we had that actually somehow either came to fruition or were completely off. I'll start off by saying Joe Flacco is not elite. And I was completely wrong. No, I still think he's good, but man, that was a crazy, I don't even know. We'll get into that when we go to that game. But I want to start off by saying Mitch did correctly guess 10 games, and I guessed 8 with an asterisk. I'll explain what that asterisk means here in a second. But I just want to flow down the list and just go every game what we did.
Well, here's what we can do. I was 10-5, and you were 8-7 on the week. Not terrible. Both above 500, and that's what you want to be, right? Especially if you're talking about betting odds. 10-5, like, I might be sending some kids to college with that record. Like, if you just bet based off of my picks, not bad.
All right, so that's a crazy comment. But you're low-key not wrong. Here's why I have an asterisk. So when we talk about the Chargers and Browns game, and we already spent a lot of time on it, I said last week that I'm picking the Browns out of the nature of this podcast, but if I had to put my life on it, I would have picked the Chargers. And so had my life been in danger, I would have been 9-6. So I'm just throwing that out there.
It's staying on business. Who did you pick?
I picked the Browns because I love my friend and my co-host, but I also am realistic. And I actually think in the pick'ems, I picked the Browns as well when I shouldn't have. I should have kept it a buck.
So it sounds like you picked the Browns.
Whatever.
8-7 for Bryce. 10-5 for you, boy. I'm just looking at the list here. Did anybody pick any upsets? Hey, the Thursday night matchup, Texans Jets. Your boy picked the Jets.
You were right about the Jets, and you're right. The Texans didn't look good at all that last week, and that was such a weird game. Here's one thing I wanted to point out to the viewers. If you missed Mitchell's formula last week that he had for the Titans versus Pats game, you got to go back and listen to that because this man confused everyone. He was like...
including myself.
I don't even know where we really landed with it. I did my best to paraphrase. Mitchell said, if it is Brissett versus Levis, Pats win. But if it's Mason Rudolph playing Drake May, dude, it went down. At the end of the day, it was like Mason Rudolph. If Mason Rudolph plays, the Titans will win, was basically the summary. But the way he worded it was so poor. Well, Mason Rudolph played and the Titans won, so he called that as well. I mean, you called a lot of really good games. You also called the game of the week, we thought, was that Lions versus Packers game. My take was that the Packers win because Dan Campbell makes a bad decision that cost them the game. That didn't happen. Every risk it biscuit thing he did paid off, and the Packers shot themselves in the foot probably 3 or 4 times that game. So the Lions won that as well. But here's where you got some calls wrong. You had the Seahawks winning against the Rams. And obviously 10-5 means you're not going to have a perfect record. But I will say you called a lot of them were safe. I called the Panthers beating the Saints.
You did?
I thought that they would pull it through. I'm not a believer of the Saints. And now that the Saints are going to play the Falcons, I want the Falcons to lose. So I'm going to will that into existence. And we'll talk about our picks later. But I'm glad I called that upset. Out of all the things, that was the only one I really think was correct.
You called the Rams to beat the Seahawks too, which I don't think the majority of people had that. So that's a good take. We both had the Cowboys, and they let us down. The Falcons beat the Cowboys. I'm looking at some of these other ones. Those are really the ones that stand out. I mean, it was a pretty vanilla week. What I've learned in making picks, man, is for the most part, don't take a ton of chances. Pick the vanilla picks, and for the most part, it plays out. I mean, there are always, again, week to week league, there are always games that surprise you and shock you. But for the most part, follow the betting odds. pick the games that are obvious.
You're so good at picking too. Like we have a Pick'ems league, and he is just like, you're just way ahead than everybody. And every week you are winning. I'm like trying to catch up to you. I can't. I don't know how you call these games so right. So
I should start betting money. Although I bet you the moment that I put actual money on it, I'm gonna be terrible. So maybe we won't do that.
One thing that I want to hit on this Run That Back segment is we talked about this matchup last week, and I think it was Bears versus Cardinals. And we both were talking about the QBs. We were talking about the QB play. We were like, yeah, you got a rookie, and then you got like a somewhat of a veteran in Kyler Murray, right? You can call him a veteran now.
Yeah.
And that game was not about the quarterbacks at all. They both sucked. It was James Conner and that running game. I mean, dude, 3 different players ran the ball in for the Cardinals, including a tight end, which unfortunately I played that tight end in fantasy this week and I lost. But it was not that game. First of all, Caleb Williams looked awful. Kyler Murray looked awful. And somehow the Cardinals put up 29. And that was such a weird game. I think we both were a little off with our takes, essentially being like, oh yeah, the quarterback play, and neither of that was present. It was just a weird game, man.
And again, there's always going to be those games that are weird. Again, for the most part, pick it vanilla, gut instinct. I can tell you, like the Jets pick over the Texans, that was just a gut instinct. They just needed it. I just felt like at home on a Thursday night games are weird. The superior team doesn't always show up and show out like you might expect. So if you're going to take chances, this is my 2 cents of advice here. If you're going to make a risky pick or take a chance, take it on a Thursday night game. A lot of times the team that you expect to win doesn't always show up on Thursday nights. That's my one hot take, I guess, for the week.
Good point.
So I finished 10-5. You finished 8-7.
Asterisk.
With an asterisk. I don't think there is one. You picked the Browns on multiple platforms.
Anybody who watched week 1 would know I picked it because of you.
Appreciate you. You lost, as did I. Moving on. Why don't we get into the next segment, which we are looking for a name. So if anybody has any suggestions, what this is it's our overreactions. So you had come up with a name, which was, and go ahead and say it.
I don't want to overreact, but
which is apparently literally no, not apparently. It is ripped straight from the Pat McAfee show.
But I need the people who are listening to understand and know. I did not know that. I don't even watch Pat that much, and I've never seen this segment once on a show, even though it's probably a pretty consistent thing they do. I did not know this. So when I pitched it to him, I was like, dude, I got a solid name for this segment. And he sends me a screenshot of the show with like the title. And I was like, oh, dang. I mean, great minds think alike, I suppose.
For anybody that listens to the Pat McAfee show, I don't want to overreact, but that's what it is. And that's literally what they do.
Well, I didn't know
every
that.
Monday.
I'm also looking at this list and I'm kind of
hang on. Don't give anything away. Hang on a second. Okay. Hang on a second. Hang on. These are just my hot takes and overreactions. I may not even publicize some of these. These are just my thoughts off the top of the dome. So we're looking for a name for the segment. If you have any ideas, hit us up at Boys Talking Ball on Instagram. Hopefully we can come up for a decent name for this segment moving forward. But what this is we're going to give our overreactions based on what we saw this past weekend, based on what we've seen over the course of the season. Overreactions moving forward. I don't know that this is a big overreaction.
I'm reading the first one. It's not. But go ahead.
This is more of a
realistic.
This is realistic. This is more of a duh, of course. But I see the Browns finishing the season with a top 3 pick.
What?
Look, I mean, when you consider the way that I felt last week about the Browns and the future compared to this week, maybe it is an overreaction. Maybe I was overreacting last week. I don't know. One of those is true. But again, we've talked about it enough. I don't need to rehash it. But the way that this season has gone, I'm looking forward to April or May, whenever the draft is. But that's my outlook.
Okay, you do one, I'll do one. My hot take, my overreaction may be, I don't think this is overreaction. Again, these are all things that we actually believe. I think Jawaan Taylor is the worst right tackle in the NFL. Fun fact, if you're listening, I went to middle school with Jawaan. Like, we both went to McNair Magnet School in Cocoa, Florida. Not trying to dox myself, but
really?
There you go. You know where I went to middle school, y'all.
Were you boys?
No. So I hate it. I'm playing. No, we're friends on Facebook. Um, but the thing is, me and Juwan never really interacted because he was a football player and I was a musical theater kid. And so while he was wrestling sweaty dudes, I was talking to girls. So, you know.
Were you, as a musical theater guy, you were talking to girls?
I wasn't talking to the boys. That's for sure. Hold on. I don't want to overreact. But I think he gets away with so many missed calls. And I genuinely, I'm watching the game and our guys are just flying past him. Even when he has I threw a picture up on our Instagram last night. I said, tomorrow's pod's going to be crazy because the picture is quite literally Jawan Taylor, like in his 3-step drop back and the center is still holding the ball. And it's not a photoshopped image. Like this man is,
the league's been trying to crack down on that, right? Calling tackles for getting a head start on pass blocking. Yeah, they called, if you remember the first Chiefs game the first game of the season this year, the Chiefs and Ravens, there were like 3 or 4 flags on Jawan Taylor for this exact thing. I don't know that maybe they haven't kept up with it over the course of the year. Maybe they've eased off a little bit, but you've seen a lot more flags this season on offensive tackles who are either lined up in the backfield or are trying to get a head start on the play.
That is true. I have not seen many on them. That's my hot take. What's yours?
My next overreaction, you're not going to be happy about, but this is after last night's results and considering, what the season looks like moving forward. My hot take, my overreaction is that the Bucs missed the playoffs.
You just don't know ball. You just don't know ball. That's the problem. You might be able to get the 10-5, but man, you don't know ball.
Look, I am an unbiased fan. Okay. So when I give you these takes, like they're not coming from a place of passion. They're just coming from a place of my perspective as an outsider looking in. And I see a team that really struggles on defense. Okay. I'm going to use what you spent the first 20 minutes of this episode ranting about, which is the Bucs defense and lack of ability to stop anything on third down. Okay. And then you look at the injuries on the offensive side. We're not going to see Chris Godwin again. Mike Evans at best is back in 3 weeks. What is the outlook for the squad? What is the outlook? You yourself said that the season is over. Did you not? I don't know if that was on air. I don't know if that was on air or off air, but you came on here and within the first 5 minutes of us talking, you said the Bucs season's over.
Did I say that?
You did. And that might have been an emotional reaction. Maybe you don't believe that, and that's fine.
I think as I've talked things out, I've revigorated my fire. And maybe when I go and look back at the box score of the Chiefs game, that might change because it's a trauma response. But I think we're going to turn the ship around. All right, my next overreaction, and I don't know how many of these we'll do. Maybe we'll do 3 each. My overreaction is I think Aaron Rodgers is washed. I think he is okay. Yes, Thursday night anomaly. I think he threw 3 touchdowns, looked pretty good. Devontae Adams had a touchdown. I think Garrett Wilson had 2 touchdowns finally for fantasy owners who have him. We're probably super excited about that. I think it was an anomaly. I've been watching the Jets, dude, and I don't know if it's an O-line thing. Maybe they just need a mesh. I think even Devontae said Rome isn't built in a day. He tweeted that or something. I get they're building something, and Aaron Rodgers is basically assembling the New York Packers. I just don't see the same swagger that Rodgers had. I mean, he's obviously capable to play the position. I just think he's washed. I don't think he has the winning in him like he used to. Like he used to just win games. And I don't want to overreact, but I think he sucks.
I don't think that's a huge overreaction based off what we've seen this season. I still think, as you do, that he can play the position. He can be a formidable quarterback, but he's not the Aaron Rodgers that we saw in Green Bay. Obviously, he's getting older. He doesn't look the same, right? He doesn't and hasn't since he left Green Bay. We'll see. I mean, the Jets have a lot of work to do if they want to make the playoffs. Fortunately for them, the AFC is not super strong. It's a bit top heavy. So there's an opportunity for them if they can kind of go on a bit of a run, but I wouldn't disagree with you. I think we've seen the best of Aaron Rodgers in his career. How about this one? This one I think is going to throw some people. My overreaction is that Jared Goff wins NFL MVP.
That's crazy, bro.
I'm reading
crazy? It too. We have a whole list of overreactions, and maybe one day we'll just share all of these with you guys. But I think we're only sharing ones that are noteworthy. And I'm looking at this one and I'm laughing to myself. You want to talk about the Bucs and the playoff? Like, you're saying the Bucs missed the playoffs in one sentence, and then we have one of the worst defenses in the league. Go look at Jared Goff's game against our terrible defense. How did he play? He looked like garbage. I'm going to rebuttal this terrible overreaction all day. Probably when this pod is over, I might even send you a text and be like, that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Jared Goff is not good, in my opinion. I think their team is very good. Anybody who has Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be able to get some.
What was his name?
Did I say it wrong?
I just want to hear you say it again.
I'm not doing it again because now I'm insecure. Maybe I said it wrong. And I don't want to get it clipped. But
it's already been clipped.
I don't think he wins MVP. I don't even think he's in the top 10 discussion for QBs.
What?
And one day we'll do Bryce's QB list, but that's not today. And
Timeout.
I don't think he's top 10. I can name 10 quarterbacks better than Jared Goff right now.
Do it right now.
Okay, Jordan Love.
Debatable.
Disagree? Debatable. Okay.
But okay, let's say for the sake of whatever. Next.
Josh Allen.
Next.
Patrick Mahomes.
Next.
Baker Mayfield. Matthew Stafford.
We're just going to accept that one?
Jalen Hurts. Joe Burrow.
Don't love your list.
Kirk Cousins.
No.
Josh Allen.
You already said him.
Did I?
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. Oh, sorry. Lamar Jackson. Jaden Daniels is better, in my opinion. CJ Stroud.
You're just giving me names, dude.
You count them when you feel like they're better. Okay, so I'm just going to say the names of these quarterbacks. You count them when you feel better. Don't listen to me. If you don't think Baker Mayfield's better, then
I don't think Baker
him.
Mayfield's better. I would debate whether or not Jaden Daniels is better. So you're at 5, if that's the case.
What about CJ Stroud? You're not counting him?
Sure, but he's not had a great season this year. I don't know that he's better than Jared Goff this year.
Are we going off this year then? Then Baker's definitely better. He has the most touchdowns in the NFL. Passing.
Okay, so let's meet in the middle, and I'll put you at 6 right now.
Okay, so you're going to put me at 6. You're going to say that Jared Goff's better than Matthew Stafford. Is that what you're saying this year?
You're saying that Matthew Stafford's a better quarterback than Jared Goff this year.
I'm
saying
to.
Look at the team. I'm saying look at the team's records, man.
Okay, Sam Darnold.
Absolutely not.
Better.
What was our take last week? The Vikings are not it, right?
Yeah, the Vikings suck.
That. So how are you going to now this week sit here and tell me that Sam Darnold is a better quarterback than Jared Goff?
Because I'm trying to build a case for my point.
You're trying to. It's not working.
But you're going off of what this season in record holds. Sam Darnold has, in my opinion, played so far better than Jared Goff has.
And the team has a worse record than the Lions have. So what's the point you're trying to make?
Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, Jordan Love.
Bro, just be honest with me. Jared Goff is a top 10 quarterback in this league.
I can't admit that. I can name 10 better.
Why? You can't. We just tried.
I just did.
No.
Gardner Minshew.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
I want to do something real quick. Hold on. Hang on a second. 2024 quarterback stats. Okay.
Go ahead. You'll see. Ooh, the stats don't lie.
I don't see 10 quarterbacks in this league that are better than Jared Goff. I don't.
What do your stats tell you?
Jared Goff on the season, 1,840 passing yards, 14 tutties, 4 picks, a quarterback rating of 115. Look, it's not the flashiest season that we're seeing, but it's definitely a top 10 season.
But he is not top 10 in pass yards. Okay. He is not top 10 in yards per attempt. He's not top 10 in touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check that. Okay, he is top 10 in touchdowns.
He is top 10 in touchdowns. Look, I'm looking at quarterback ranking, And of the full-time quarterbacks, and I'm talking about quarterbacks that play every game under center or most games under center for their team, okay? I'm not talking about Cortland Sutton has one pass attempt on the year and his quarterback ranking is incredible, okay? I'm talking about full-time quarterbacks. Jared Goff's passer rating is second in the league only to Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson boasts a passer rating of 120.7. Jared Goff's passer rating 115. It's awfully quiet over there.
That is a good thing to look at, but let's take a look at the completion percentage. Now, here's something that is in your favor. Jared Goff leads the league in completion percentage for over however many attempts. Let's just give it 100. Let's do 100 minimum attempts. He's at 211. At 100 minimum attempts, at least, he has a 74.9%. So yes, he's been very accurate this season, but his pass yards aren't there.
Well, they have a great running game. They have an awesome 1-2 punch in the backfield, and that you can't fault Jared Goff for that.
If we're going off pass yards alone, I'm correct. But if we're going off of anything else, you are correct.
Okay. Moving on. Jared Goff is a top 10 quarterback.
Agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree. We'll move on. The last segment that we have on the docket is our picks. With the Monday night game officially in the books, we are looking ahead to week 10. Now, last week, this segment took like 16 years to complete. Okay. Not going to take that long this week. What we've decided to do is we are going to pick out just a few big matchups, that what we would consider to be the biggest games of the week. We'll break those down in more detail. And then with the other games, we can kind of spend maybe 30 to 60 seconds on each, give our pick. Yeah. So we will still cover all the games and make all of our picks, but we're not going to go in as much detail on, say, New England versus Tennessee.
I don't know. That New England-Tennessee conversation was pretty fire.
It was good, but not for the amount of time we spent on it. I'll say that right now.
All right, well, what's the first one you got for us?
Yeah. Let's jump right in. The first game that I pointed out is the Thursday night game. It's a big one. It's a divisional matchup between two teams that are really looking ahead to what they feel is going to be a playoff season. And for one team, potentially a Super Bowl run. You've got the Cincinnati Bengals currently sitting at 4-5, headed to Baltimore to face the Baltimore Ravens at 6-3.
This game for me is going to be a statement game for the Ravens. If the Ravens come out there and they look like what they've been looking like and they just destroy the Bengals offensively, that could be ugly, but that will be a statement game. That will show that they are in this to win it. If they lose this game, that's going to pose a lot of questions, and this game is completely losable for them. I personally am going to take an upset. I'm like the upset king. I think Jamar Chase has a legacy game against this number 32
hang on, pause.
What?
Every time we talk about the Bengals, it's legacy game for Jamar Chase. Just because you have him in fantasy don't mean this dude got to pop off every single week, brother.
Jamar Chase legacy game, baby.
My goodness.
We will it into existence. And yes, I may have him in fantasy. And yes, he was my first pick. And yes, every week I predict he'll have a legacy game. But this week in particular, genuinely think he's going to have a legacy game because it is against the worst pass defense in the league.
That's true. That is true.
And if the Bengals can get on the same page offensively, it could be one of those things again where like the Browns took care of it because they were able to score on them. And if the Ravens can't keep up, if you stop them early, again, I think a game plan for most defenses is like, oh, let's try to make Lamar throw it. Well, if Lamar's on that week, you're screwed. But there is a chance that Lamar's not on. But I do think I'm a do Bengals.
Okay. The spread is 6 points for this game in favor of Baltimore. I think that's a little high. I like Baltimore at home to win it, but when you look at the injury report, obviously T. Higgins is doubtful according to Bleacher Report. Zach Moss also doubtful. On the Baltimore side of things, still, at least for now, without Marlon Humphrey, although he's questionable for Thursday. So on a short week, can he get healthy? Can he get right? Will he be out there? It'll make a difference. Obviously, you're right. Regardless of who's been out there this season, the pass defense for Baltimore has really struggled, which is why I don't love the big spread. That spread to me says that Vegas thinks that Baltimore is going to roll, and I don't see that happening.
Yeah,
I see it being a competitive game, AFC North matchup. But in the end, I like Baltimore, so give me the Ravens for that one.
Yeah, well, I just think this is a must-win for Bengals. Like, this is an urgent game for them to win. Does that urgency on the road cause some form of upset? They've bounced back. They started, 1-5? They've won the last 3.
Yeah.
This is a must-win for them. If they're looking to battle it out, dude, that's an extremely tough division.
Yeah.
So I like the scrappy Bengals on Thursday night.
So just so we're clear, you're going Cincinnati.
I am, dude. Upset City.
I like it. We're at odds already. Game 1. Let's move on. We have San Francisco at 4-4 coming into Tampa Bay to face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 4-5.
It's a 1 p.m. game, and I just was talking about must-win games. This is a must-win for both. It's an NFC matchup, potential playoff game. Like, this could be another game down the stretch if we both make it to the playoffs towards the end of the season. Again, another big spread, -5.5 in favor of the 49ers. And depending on what offense comes out there, that could totally be possible. But yeah, it's a must-win for both teams. I just don't see the Bucs dropping 4 in a row, and we could really use a win like this before the bye week, get healthy. Again, if we lose this game, I still don't think it's the end of the world for us because we get a bye week. We get to rest up afterwards. We've been, Chiefs, Falcons, we've been playing some heavy hitters, Ravens. The rest of our schedule, like you pointed out earlier, is a cakewalk. So if we can just get through, if we can just get past the 49ers and Christian McCaffrey's homecoming game, they are playing in Tampa. I like that. I like them playing at home, and it's a must-win for both. So this is going to just be a good game in general. It's going to be scrappy. 49ers defense is really good, so I'm worried about how we'll look in the run game of Fred Warner. We've been relying on our run game the last few weeks to generate a ton of offense, and if we can't get that going, it could be a really rough game for Tampa. I don't know. I'm taking Tampa, obviously. What are your thoughts?
We've talked a lot about Tampa already. I'm just kind of looking at some of the season stats for the Bucs, and they all support what you've been saying, right? A high-powered and really good offense when you look at it in totality. And then the defense struggles. You're 5th in total yards per game, 5th in pass yards per game, 10th in rush yards per game, 5th in points per game. But on the defensive end, you're 28th in points per game allowed, 30th in yards per game allowed, 16th in turnover difference, middle of the road. Look, what's the story as far as the injuries in this one? Because I think injuries is a major storyline, but when you think about each of these teams, we obviously know what the 49ers come in looking like. They're expecting back Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, they're without Brandon Ayuk for the rest of the year. They're without Jawan Jennings for the rest of the year. Deebo Samuel is healthy and playing. Brock Purdy's there, Trent Williams. And again, expecting obviously to get CMC back. Yes, that is scary when you consider the 49ers at full strength, which they won't be. They'd probably be, 3/4 strength at best. What about on the Bucs side? I'm looking at this injury report. I see Antoine Winfield, Bucky Irving, Jalen McMillan, Sterling Shepard, all questionable to play. What have you been hearing as far as the injuries are concerned for this week?
Yeah, I expect all these players to play. One person you left out, Tyreek Smith. He's our new safety, 3rd-round pick this year, rookie. He forced the fumble on Travis Kelce last night. The dude is a stud. He plays kind of a nickel 3 safety, dime package that we run, and he's awesome. I wish this kid was in more. Antoine Winfield, he's always up on there for his foot. He aggravated his foot early in the season, is what kept him out. But he's going to play. Bucky Irving, same thing. These are some tough guys. Sterling Shepard had a hamstring injury coming into yesterday and still played.
And so
and he didn't really he wasn't insanely it didn't show he was injured at all during that game. So I expect him to play. I'm praying. I hope Tyreek Smith is actually my sleeper for that game. If he's out, right now he's the only one on defense generating turnovers and playing really well in the secondary. Everybody else is kind of, I don't know what they're doing out there. Antoine Winfield, of course, he's one of the best safeties in the league, in my opinion. Battling the foot injury, he hasn't looked the same since he came back, and hopefully he can pull it together. I think a lot of those guys play. Some of our major guys that are listed as questionable now, but we'll see by Wednesday or Thursday when Coach talks about what they look like. We'll see.
Really, you're looking at that Friday injury report. That's going to be the teller, because if somebody is still not practicing by Friday, chances are they will not play on Sunday. It's not impossible,
correct, yeah.
but that seems to be the trend. So I'd be interested to see what this looks like a little bit later in the week. I just feel again the same way that I felt last week, kind of with the Bucs. And they proved me wrong. I mean, they played a much more competitive game than I thought they would on Monday night, but it's going to be hard for them to overcome all these injuries and beat a quality team. Now, if this was, somebody that's in the bottom half of the league record wise and talent wise and all that. I like the Bucks at home. I don't know.
I agree
I'm
with
kind
you.
of leaning 49ers here. And I look at the spread too. And again, this is another case where if I'm betting the spread, 5.5 is what Bleacher Report has it right now. I would take the Buccaneers with that spread. But because we're just picking it straight up, I think I'm going to go 49ers.
I can respect that. And I'm not even going to argue it too much. Everybody's been wondering where the heck is this 49ers offense been that was so electric last year. Well, they're all back. We have to respect CMC. Even if he's on the field as a decoy, have to respect him. We got Debo to worry about. Kittle. This team is great. Brock Purdy shows up. If he plays, he doesn't even have to play that good against our defense. Like our defense is going to make a ton of mistakes unless we tighten it up.
Right.
Thing is like you're saying with the spread, our offense will keep us in it. We'll stay competitive the whole game.
Right.
We'll score after they score. They're just going to score more than we do. And I could see us losing too. Respectfully, I'm still staying with the Bucks. I can't not pick my team. I'll pick my team every week.
Who wins the coin toss? That's the question.
Buccaneers. Tails never fails, baby.
All right, another big game in the league this week. Man, I'm excited for this one. This ought to be a good one. An AFC North team, the Pittsburgh Steelers at 6-2, headed to Washington to take on the Commanders at 7-2. Let me start with this one. I know what AFC North football is like, and I know how we play. It's a physical brand of football. Sometimes it's ugly, not always high scoring, but can be depending on the week. And it's overall pretty good. And so it's going to be a great matchup. You've got the rookie quarterback. The strength of the Steelers is their defense and has been all year. Russell Wilson in his return, I don't know. I think the jury's kind of still out as far as what he's going to be long-term and for the rest of the season. But it's been good enough to win when combined with that defense. And the defense has been stellar as it normally is. They're in Washington, and this Washington team is just hot. Needed a Hail Mary last weekend to beat the Bears. And this weekend, the Commanders won against the Giants in New York, 27-22. Barely. So I look at the last 2 weeks, they've kind of squeaked out wins over inferior opponents. That tells me something. Man, I hate the Steelers. I'll tell you what, that is one of my least favorite teams in football.
Jeez.
As a Browns fan, a Browns fan, that's our number one rival. And so I don't have a ton of good things to say about the Steelers as far as just my personal opinion of the team, but I can't deny the way that they're playing right now. They're playing really, really well. My question is the Washington offense going to have enough firepower to overcome the strength of the Pittsburgh Steelers defense? This is a 3-point spread in favor of Washington. Give me the Steelers, man.
Yeah, really?
Hate it. Hate that I'm even saying it, but I'm going to go with the Steelers. What do you think?
Well, for me, I feel like this game is a tale of so many other factors than just the team play, and I'll explain. Obviously, both teams are playing really well, and both have some really good players on both sides of the ball. Najee Harris, who sucked last year, in my opinion, towards the end of the year started playing a lot better and then kind of picked up that momentum coming into this year, has been playing great for the Steelers, has complemented their passing game with a good running game. All those factors I think are great. Jaden Daniels, electrifying, has played great. For me, it's a lot more about a tale of two coaches. Like you got the head coach from the Falcons or prior, Dan Quinn, right? Now with Washington, he's been doing great. Like he's up there for coach of the year. But then you have Mike Tomlin, a guy who has just been consistent since I was a little kid. Like Mike Tomlin has been the head coach for the Steelers for so long. And I feel like this is going to be a really interesting game. It's going to be a cold day in Washington. Yeah, the Steelers defensively are great. Just like a good, solid defensive structure they have there. And then Washington's playing electrifying offense. But I really do think that Mike Tomlin outwits Dan Quinn in this game. I think it's just a matter of clock management. I think it comes down to the wire. The play calling is going to be better for the Steelers. I think Russell Wilson protects the ball. I think Jaden Daniels is going to make some rookie, mistakes like he has. I also have the Steelers, and I think it's going to be based off the coaching. I think the Steelers are going to make less mistakes. There's going to be less penalties. There's going to be less like jumping the gun, offsides, false starts. It's going to be a cleaner game, and that's actually what's going to win it for them. I think the Steelers are a more disciplined team right now. I know Dan Quinn and that team are hot, but this is a veteran, mature team they're coming into play. I think that's why they even went to Russell Wilson in the first place, was like, hey, we got Justin Fields, young kid. He's electrifying too. But like, we need to put someone in here who we know is going to stick to the script. Russell Wilson, if the play is to throw a check down, he's throwing a check down. He's not going to run first. He's not. And I know he has room to improvise and adapt, but that's that Mike Tomlin mentality that they run there. It's like, stick to the script and we win games. That's why he's never had a losing season.
I didn't have your X factor being the head coaches, but that'll be interesting. That'll be interesting to watch. You're right, though. I mean, Tomlin's a guy that he just wins. That's just what he does. He just wins. And then you got Dan Quinn, who's been up and down throughout the course of his career, but obviously having a great season. It'd be a good one in Washington for sure. Let's move on. We've got the Denver Broncos at 5-4 with that elite defense and less than elite offense heading into Kansas City to face the still undefeated Kansas City Chiefs. Go ahead.
Bo Nix is the only player in the NFL currently this season with a receiving touchdown, throwing touchdown, and rushing touchdown. Fun fact.
I like it.
The Chiefs have a great opportunity here to just go 9-0. And they also have an opportunity this season, to literally go undefeated. I don't know what's going on over there in Kansas City. I don't know what's in the water. I don't know what the refs are doing. You've heard my takes. This is a -8 spread in favor of the Chiefs. This is them assuming that the Chiefs are not just going to score, but they're going to lock down the Broncos. And they have a very good chance to do so. This game's puzzling for me because the Broncos are 5-4. They're in a tough division. They need to win this game if they have any hopes to winning that division or even going to the playoffs, getting a wild card spot. Again, here is another matchup where I'm looking at the head coaches. I know this sounds crazy, but you got Andy Reid versus Sean Payton. The reason this Broncos defense is so good is because a defensive mind coach, Sean Payton, came in here. They already had a solid defense. And he has been just transforming it. He has really made it solid. If you look at how they've been playing out, yes, they've lost 4 games. And those games have been tragic. And with the Chiefs, they're a little more one-dimensional for me. I know Kareem Hunt had 100 rushing yards on us last night, but that came in the fourth quarter at the very end. We had already been, beaten and super tired. And again, he got the dagger. He played in overtime. Up until the second half, he had only had like maybe 46 going into halftime, and we were shutting him down, and then it just kind of blew up. I will take the Chiefs here. I think they keep rolling 9-0. I do not think that the Broncos, like to your point, have the offensive capability to just go into that game and win it. Plus, they're playing at the Chiefs Stadium, and that's a hard stadium to play in.
Couple things. Man, you really love coaching matchups this week. It's interesting. Didn't peg you for such a fan of the coaches that we have in the NFL. But also, last week, I believe you said, as your Tampa Bay Buccaneers got ready to head into Arrowhead to play the undefeated Chiefs, hey, they're not going to go undefeated. Hey, somebody's got to beat them.
At some
point. Now this week, you're saying, man, they could go undefeated. Like, this team is a squad. I'm just pointing that out, man. I get it. It's
because I watch this game and I see things that just make me question the calls, and it just feels there's something weird in the air. When you just have a feeling you're watching something, you're like, everything goes right for them. Unfortunately, they're the new Patriots. Things just work out for them. They win. They're going to win. Like, I don't understand what's going on down there, but I will say, I think the Chiefs win that game. I don't think they have enough I don't think the Broncos have enough to go into Arrowhead and just win.
They don't. Personally. I like the Chiefs too. Our wives are pretty new to the NFL. They're new to kind of getting into watching football and enjoying it. My wife in particular is all about the NFL script. She just believes it's a thing. And what I'm hearing you say is that you're kind of leaning that way, at least as it pertains to the Chiefs.
A little bit.
Listen, the Chiefs are going to win this game. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when they do. They're better than the Broncos, just straight up. I know that, the coaching matchup, whatever, and I hear your points and they're valid, but the players play the games and the Chiefs have better players. That just is what it is. Yeah. I love the Broncos. The Broncos are headed in the right direction. I don't know if I'm sold on Bo Nix yet necessarily, but that defense is already right now elite, very good. And so, they're a few pieces away from being a real contender in the AFC, but it's just not this year. And they may make the playoffs this year. They may, fight for a wild card spot. Who knows? They make a little bit of noise, but they're not a team of consequence this year, in my humble opinion. Give me Kansas City straight up, and if we were picking the spread, they're going to roll.
We got Miami 2-6 versus the Los Angeles Rams 4-4. And I think we put this game on here because despite the record, this is a good matchup.
Yeah.
This is a Miami team that's kind of coming back to full health. As you've been looking at the Dolphins, now that they have Tua back, Tyreek Hill's getting more catches. I'm interested to know, what do you think about this matchup now that it's on our list? Monday night.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Miami at 2-6, but they're getting healthier. They've got Tua back. They played the Bills real tough last week. I believe they lost by a field goal. So, they're competitive again, which is good. Can they make something of the season? It's not impossible, again, especially in the AFC, but it's gonna be a tall task for them to make noise this year. But they can continue to improve. They can continue to get better. Did I hear that Tyreek Hill's name was being floated around as a trade possibility? I don't know. I don't think Miami's ready to sell, honestly. I mean, they've had some bad luck with injuries. They could add a few more pieces and kind of retool, not rebuild. I don't think they're in the rebuilding phase yet. So I don't see them being sellers at the deadline, which is coming up here in just under an hour and a half. No, I mean, they go into LA to face a Rams team that is resurging. They are getting healthy. They are getting their pieces back, and they're playing really well. One of my hot takes earlier, my overreactions, I should say, that I didn't actually share. I guess I could share it now. Could the Rams possibly be the second best team in the NFC?
Who's your first?
I think it's obviously the Lions.
In the NFC.
You've got Washington at 7-2. I mean, look, you can look at the records and they are what they are. And I'm not saying record-wise they're there. I'm just saying as the teams are playing right now, as currently constructed, and with the level of momentum they're carrying, the Rams at full health with an experienced quarterback and good weapons, is that a team we could be talking about that could make an NFC championship push? I don't know.
I mean, prior to the Packers losing to the Lions, I would have argued I'd put the Packers over the Rams, and personally right now I'll put Commanders over the Rams. But you do make a good point. Like, with their team back to full health, it's the same thing. And it's funny because they're in the same division, the 49ers. Those are good, experienced, constantly making it to the playoffs teams. Right. The Rams are 4-4, but that doesn't mean their season's over by any means. Right. There's so much football left. If they beat the Dolphins, they're 5-4, and then they go into week 11 and they play the Patriots, who are 2-7, could be 2-8 after this weekend. Yeah, no, you make a really good point, and I don't know if that's your pick, but that is also my pick.
Well, I'm trying to talk myself into it. So you're going to Los Angeles Rams. I don't really think I need convincing. I'm going to go the Rams too. This game is being played in LA, where they've had some success as of late. And again, I just feel like they are getting healthy, and when healthy, they are one of the better offenses in football. We didn't even mention Kyren Williams, which is one of the best backs in the league right now. And so I just think that the offense is really good when they've got all their pieces, and they do. And so give me the Rams at home on Monday Night Football to make a statement. And I think they beat the Dolphins, and it's not close.
Yeah, I like that as well.
We got one more game that we put on our list of notable matchups for Week 10, and that is our Sunday Night Football matchup. You've got the Detroit Lions at 7-1 going into Houston to face the Houston Texans at 6-3.
A Houston team that was, in my opinion, supposed to take care of the Jets last week and ended up losing that game on Thursday night. I think it's a interesting game. It's going to be a really good game, depending on a couple factors. Do the Texans figure out offense with Joe Mixon and crew? Because I know that due to the notable injuries, Houston's going to be still without Diggs. And I don't know is Nico Collins coming back? Is this his first game back?
Coach D'Amico Ryans was asked after practice today, what's the status of Nico Collins? And Ryan said, we will continue to evaluate him throughout the week to see where he is. To me, that doesn't bode well for his game status.
That's worrisome. That is worrisome.
So I would say that the Texans will likely be without Nico Collins this week, if I had to guess.
Okay. Well, with this game, I can easily see the Lions going 8-1. Lions are a great team. Fun fact, the Lions only lost this to us, Tampa Bay. And I think that aside from that, poor game from Goff, to your point, he has looked really good this season. Completion percentage, QBR, it's all there. Obviously, passing yards not as high, but who on Houston defensively is going to be able to stop that offense with Jahmyr Gibbs and Ahmad? Dude, how
Go
do you
ahead.
say his name?
No, go
I
ahead.
can't. Man.
Let's hear
Amon
it.
Ra St. Brown, right? Am I
Amon-Ra.
saying that wrong? Amon Ra,
Yeah.
like ramen.
There you go. Yeah.
Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think with that offense, they like who on the Houston's defense is gonna stop that. On the same thing though, Houston's no like cakewalk. Houston's 6-3 for a reason. CJ Stroud's a great quarterback in this league, and if they can get the run game going and figure out where to throw it, if Nico Collins is in, it's a much closer game. If Nico Collins is out, I have Detroit winning this game and going 8-1. Houston falling 6-4.
So if Nico Collins doesn't play, you're taking Detroit. If he does play, who are you taking?
This is a great question. Here's what I'll say. If Nico Collins ends up playing Sunday night, I'll take Houston. I like it. I like Nico. I think he's a great receiver.
All right. So there's an asterisk on your pick for this game. When I look at the matchup between these two teams, I just look at it's a Lions team that I feel like can compete for a Super Bowl this year. First in points per game, fifth in points per game allowed, seventh in total yards per game, sixth in rushing yards per game, first in turnover differential at +11. This is a good team all around. They do struggle a bit in yards per game allowed, but they don't give up very many points per game. When you look at the Houston side of things, they're kind of middle of the road and everything. Now, the one thing they are very good at is yards per game allowed. They're second in the league, allowing 281.7 yards per game. And they do have a +4 turnover differential. Houston is a team to me that's been streaky. They've kind of been up and down. Now, strength on strength, because the Lions come into this game undefeated on the road. They're 4-0. Meanwhile, the Texans are undefeated at home, also 4-0. When they go on the road, it's a different story. But at NRG, they are very, very good. So we'll see. I mean, I don't think that that's enough for me to pick. Oh, this is a tricky one, man. This is a tricky one because you look at that spread, it's 3.5 in favor of Detroit. Sunday night, prime time. Man, this is tough. I've been talking high on the Lions both episodes of our pod now, and I'm going to stick with that. I got the Lions in this one. All right, for the rest of the games, I'm just going to name the teams that are playing, and we'll just kind of give our pick and move forward. All right, so the first one that we didn't cover, New York Giants at 2-7 in Carolina to take on the Panthers at 2-7. Wow, what a matchup. What's your pick?
Give me Giants.
I'm going to go Giants as well. They got to get off the schneid. I really need Malik Neighbors.
Isn't that in Germany?
Is it I think it is in Germany this week, yeah. Do you think that plays a factor?
No, that's a snooze fest, man. Oh, wait.
Hey,
give me New York.
No, you already picked New York.
Oh, okay.
Imagine being the Germans and they're so excited for American football and we send them the Giants and the Panthers.
I saw a meme somewhere and it said, what could the Germans possibly have done to deserve a game like this? And someone else responded and said, you know exactly what the Germans
Okay,
did.
all right. Moving on. We have the 7-2 Bills at the 4-5 Colts.
Give me Bills.
Bills all the way. I don't believe in the Colts anymore. Sorry, Ellis. We have the Falcons at 6-3 going into New Orleans to face your boys, the 2-7 slumping Saints.
Give me them Falcons.
That's what I thought. I'll take the Falcons as well. By the way, somewhat breaking news. Marshawn Lattimore has been traded.
Oh, snap.
Did you see this? To the Washington Commanders. It's a good get for Washington, man. They need back-end help on that defense, and he's the guy. He's a guy for them.
That's a great move.
All right, let's go to Chicago, where we have the 2-7 New England Patriots in town to face the 4-4 Bears.
The Bears. Give me the Bears.
Everybody's making a big deal about DJ Moore walking off the field in the middle of that play. Did you see that?
He was injured.
Okay.
Yeah, he was injured.
Man, leave it to Boys Talking Ball to be able to realistically rationalize what's happening in a replay. You can clearly see him roll his ankle. And from what I read, receivers are taught to leave the field if they're on the sideline to step out so that the quarterback doesn't mistake them as being eligible to catch a ball, because he had already stepped out of bounds after he rolled his ankle. He chose to stay out of bounds. It was a 0-0 game in the first quarter. Why would DJ Moore be so frustrated? He's leaving the field in the middle of the play. People Man, that's clickbait. That was
some
clickbait.
NFL Karens, bro.
There's plenty of those this year. Let's go to Minnesota Vikings 6-2 playing the Jacksonville Jaguars 2-7 in Jacksonville.
Well, my take last week the Eagles smacked the Jaguars, but Doug Peterson wasn't fired. I have the Vikings beating the Jaguars and Doug Peterson getting fired.
Okay. You're just saying it's going to happen. It's going to happen one of these weeks.
One of these days I'll be right.
All right. I'll take the Vikings as well. I'm tempted to take the Jags there at home, but man, they've just looked not good. So what did I say? Keep it vanilla. Give me the Vikings. The 2-6 Tennessee Titans at the 5-3 Los Angeles Chargers.
The Chargers defense is too good. Give me Chargers.
Give me the meh Chargers to win this one at home. We've got the 6-2 Eagles in Dallas to face the 3-5 Cowboys. Timeout before you make your pick. I'm so proud of us for not analyzing this as one of our notable games. I'm proud of us. We are not a Dallas Cowboys pod. And I'm not going to be a Dallas Cowboys hater, but when they're good, we'll talk about them. If they're not good, we're not going to talk about them.
Facts.
Give me your pick.
Cowboys.
You're really a Cooper Rush believer, huh?
Dude, Cooper is a dog.
All right. I like the Eagles to go into Dallas and straight roll. Really excited to see what else Saquon Barkley has in his tool belt for me. We've got the Jets at 3-6 playing in Arizona against the Cardinals at 5-4.
Speaking of the Jets, they just traded Mike Williams to the Steelers.
They did. That dropped recently as well. The Steelers get the receiver they've been looking for. They were in on the Ayuk talks, right? And it didn't work out for them, and they didn't land Brandon Ayuk. They've been going after some other receivers. They finally get somebody to line up opposite George Pickens. It's Mike Williams. Will he be a factor? What does he have left in the tank? I don't know. It remains to be seen. But yes, the Jets are minus a weapon this week in Arizona.
With this game, like I said earlier, I don't believe in Aaron Rodgers anymore, so I will take the Cardinals at 4:30 in the afternoon.
Does the time play a big factor?
If it was a 1 p.m., I might have took the Jets, but Aaron Rodgers is old, man. You got to remember his bedtime's probably like 6 p.m.
Okay. I'm going to go with, I said last week the Jets really need to start winning some of these games against lesser opponents. I don't know what the Cardinals are, to be honest. I'm not sure.
They're favored.
I understand they're favored. It's by 1. That's basically a toss-up. They need it. Let me ride the Jets train until it fails me. I'm going to go Jets here. That's it, man. That's all the picks. We'll be back next week to figure out, how we did and see if you can improve on that 8-7 asterisk record of yours.
I don't feel good about it. I will say I'll probably, when we do our pick'ems, switch some things up, but as everything stands on this pod,
it's locked.
Everything I said was true and nothing was wrong. So,
all right. We'll find out next week how you did. Hey, we want to hear from you right now. The best platform to reach us is @BoysTalkingBall on Instagram. You can send us a DM. Let us know your hot takes, maybe some of your overreactions, any questions you might have, things that you want to hear on the pod or on our social media. We want to hear from the listeners. So hit us up, get in touch, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for taking some time to listen to two boys that just like talking ball. And we hope you're enjoying the pod so far. We'll be back next week with another episode. But until then,
go Bucks.
Go Browns.